Welcome to the Midnight Train to Sleepy Hills. We hope you enjoy your ride. We ask all guests to be aware of your surroundings because there is danger in Sleepy Hills. Additionally, we will be releasing new episodes weekly, so stay tuned and please like and subscribe. Now, back to our latest installment. Wendy was smiling so hard, it was starting to make her cheeks hurt. But whenever she was close to Max, she just couldn't help but feel overjoyed. Max was a great guy. He listened to her. And although he added little to her stories, she could tell that he wanted me to be happy. Max had a bit of foam on his lips after taking a sip from his beer. Wendy had little self-control as her index finger quickly touched his lips. Max tried to pull away from her finger, but she won this race. "What are you doing?" he said. "You had some foam on your mouth," she said as she winked at him. "Well, thank you, but you could tell me next time instead of sticking your finger near my mouth." "What fun would that be?" she said in a playful tone. As Max was about to respond, she put her finger again on his lips again. "Oh, look, I see Bruce coming back, which means Margaret must have gotten here." Wendy couldn't help feeling that this night would officially begin when Margaret sat with them. "Is Margaret here?" Bruce returned a smile. She just pulled up. "I want to make this a special night for her. She'll have a wonderful time, I'm sure of it," Wendy said in a convincing tone. As Bruce took his seat next to Wendy, the memory of what his boss had told him that afternoon, and yet not sharing the information with his wife in the parking lot. "I can tell her tomorrow morning," he said to himself. There was no reason to bring up some work-related things tonight. In one way, it was great news. On the other, it would create a temporary imbalance in time. How could good news be seen as a curse? The idea wheeled inside of his mind, and yet here he was in a dive bar that should have been burned down to the ground years ago. Bruce couldn't help replaying the shocked look on Margaret's face when she came home late that night. She would have done the same to me had I done that very thing. "Now take it easy, Bruce." Wendy was now staring at me. I didn't say anything. "I know that look you make. Let's leave work, politics, and even religion out of the conversations tonight and just have fun. This is a chance for all of us to get together. I realize the two of you guys likes advancing oneself. However, this night, we let our hair down and just turn off our working minds. Off." Bruce smiled, and although he would never admit it to her, she had a point. "Oh, I love this song," Wendy squealed with joy as she grabbed Max and dragged him to the dance floor. "Man, I remember those days," thought Bruce. Watching the two of them scrambling to the dance floor, he slowly sighed to himself. Was it the kids? Or her many failed promotions? As Bruce pondered what the marriage counselor said a few years ago. "Now remember, Bruce," the doctor did confirm that she has a hormonal imbalance. "I get all that. And didn't even say anything about my wife's health." Although he felt the marriage counselor was on the side of his wife 75% of the time, To Bruce, this was a turbulent time. And as humorous as it was to argue with the therapist, he really wanted to keep his marriage alive. There was at least some self-reflection, and he realized that he was less supportive as he should be. It was not because he wanted to derail her dreams, but he wanted to protect her from her failures. As he turned his eyes from the palms of his hands to the entrance to the barfly, and with a subtle glance, there she was, Margaret, the woman he decided to have a family with. She only gained a few pounds when the gold ring came on. Time was extremely kind to her, and besides a few wrinkles, she remained relatively the same. Would you marry me? To the first scream from their second born. It seemed like 100 years ago that those events occurred. She approached the table with a smile on her face. Well, it looks like Wendy and Max are having fun. Bruce offered his hand and said, "Would you dance with me?" Margaret took his hand and planted a warm kiss on his lips. "Take me away," she said. Across from the main stage was a full bar of patrons cheering. Yet there was one person who didn't cheer, but laid silent nursing a beer, and had a few too many empty shot glasses littered around him, like casualties of a war long lost. Mueller felt the cold, crisp liquid flow gently down his throat. His sad eyes would pull from the hockey game he cared little about to his surroundings. I was happy like that too, he mused, as he saw couples dance with total abandonment. Today had to be one of the hardest days for him. And at this moment, it would be a distant memory not long from now. The trembling feet he had were being replaced with weights. And although being a failure was not an unknown feeling, drinking was something he was not particularly proud of. But considering the circumstances, it was better than crying in bed. He knew the tears would come Monday in front of the psychiatrist. The taste was steadily becoming less relative as his body slowed down. "Hey, are not you, Officer Mueller?" What the hell, he thought to himself, as his eyes were locked on two hockey players punching each other, and the referee pointed and shouted as the crowd went wild with excitement as the violence continued. "Yeah, it's you. I'm sure it's you. I'm on off duty. If you need police service, call the station." No, I need to tell you something." Mueller still refused to take his eyes off the now decreasing number of fists being thrown. And as the announcer was discouraging the violent outburst, as the referee placed his hand on the shoulder of one of the players, a face got in the way of his disconnect from reality. A man who looked between the age of 40 to 50, with flakes of gray peppered across his black hair. He quickly recognized the man as someone who'd lived a few houses from him. "What is it?" The response was quick and cold. And there was no way in hell he was going to take down a statement of a missing bicycle or someone partying a little too late into the night. "I need to tell you what happened to me last night." Mueller took another mouthful of beer, and from the look his neighbor was giving him, Even this night was not going to allow him to tell this guy to screw off. Sure, why not? It's not like I'm not trying to relax from a shitty day or anything like that. Thank you, Officer Mueller. You have no idea how grateful I am on sharing this with you. Fine, spit it out. I don't have all day. The man quickly sat next to me as if he cared little of what I had just said to him. Well, last night, I forgot to load some boxes into my truck, and I can't stand wasting my time when I can knock it straight away. Mueller groaned to himself silently, and yet you're wasting my time, sure. I left the warehouse just past midnight, and I can admit, I was a little sleepy on the wheel. However, what happened next, I just cannot believe it. As I was driving, a cat ran out right into the street, and immediately a wolf came right behind the little guy and swiped it. This happened so fast that I was unable to stop the truck in time, so I hit the wolf. Mueller's mouth was refueling with more of that crisp liquid he so needed badly. You can fill out a roadkill report. I'm sure this was just an honest accident. Well, that is the thing, though. The wolf didn't die. So back to my story. When I hit that wolf, I swear I killed that beast on impact. Not proud to admit it, but I've had my fair share of animals getting killed in front of my truck. My truck has claimed the lives of a few bucks. So I got out and checked on the little cat because I felt like there's a chance to save it. Then while I was standing over the cat, and then that's when I heard heavy breathing and bones snapping coming from the wolf. There was something off about that whole situation. The wolf's eyes were glowing, and I felt like my life was in danger, so Then I drove out of there as fast as I could. Mueller no longer could remember the score of the hockey game. I just needed to tell someone. Thank you, Officer Mueller. I know you're probably not in the mood to do much right now, but I appreciate that you listened to my story. It's been weighing on my mind, and I just felt like if I told somebody that I guess I just get off my chest. Thank you. And the footsteps descending slowly down to the barfly could be heard if you just stood outside of the parking lot. That concludes our episode for today on the midnight train to Sleepy Hills. Please stay tuned next week for our next episode and follow the journey of what occurs in the town of Sleepy Hills. Do sleep well.